Hi, Mrs. B here. Let's learn about probability. So we're going to start by just looking at a few examples, and you're going to follow along in your booklet. A couple of problems you'll need to do in your spiral because they're not in the booklet. Feel free to pause the video to try the problems before I give answers, and also to repeat the video if needed. Okay, off we go. Okay, so in your booklet on the first page, please write down the definitions to these vocab words. So an event is a collection of outcomes, and I'll show you an example in a minute. And the outcomes are all the possible results, and the favorable outcomes are the results you're trying to get to win the game. So here's an example. If we have these 6 marbles, those are the outcomes. And if the event is to choose a green marble, so that's what you're trying to do, and the favorable outcomes are the 2 that are green. So we'll learn in the next section that the probability then would be of choosing green would be 2 out of 6, and we would simplify that to 1/3. Okay, so we're just going to focus on those outcomes in 10.1, which is on page 2 in your booklet. So if you're rolling a number cube and they ask you what are the possible outcomes, you would just list all the numbers on the cube. So there are 6 possible outcomes, and you would list the numbers 1 through 6. What are the favorable outcomes of rolling an even number? So we would list the even numbers on a number cube, which would be the 2 and the 4 and the 6. What are the favorable outcomes of rolling a number greater than 5? There's only the number 6, so that's your only favorable outcome of that happening. Okay, also on page 2, you have the spinner. And we're going to count the outcomes on the spinner. So you're spinning the spinner. How many possible outcomes are there? So you would just count the number of sections on the spinner. And since there's 6, there's 6 possible outcomes. In how many ways can spinning red occur? You would count that there's 3 sections that are red. So there's 3 ways that red can occur. And C. In how many ways can spinning not purple occur? What are the favorable outcomes of spinning not purple? So there are everything except for the 1 purple are all possibilities for that question. So you would list all those 5 sections that are not purple. Notice my green became blue in that problem for me. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is not in your booklet. I'd like you to try this in your spiral. Imagine that you're rolling this number cube and these are the outcomes 1 through 6. What are the favorable outcomes of rolling a prime number? So what you would do is list the numbers that are prime out of those. And 1 is not prime, 1 is a special number. So 2 is prime because it only has 2 factors, 2 and 1. 3 is the same, and so is 5. So those are the favorable outcomes. Rolling a number that is divisible by 3. So if we look at our 6 numbers, the only 2 that we can divide by 3 are 3 and 6. Rolling a multiple of 8. Multiples of 8 start with 8 and 16 and 24. So you would write not 0 because that's a number. You would have to write none as your answer for that one. Have a little bet you didn't know for you. Honeybees have hair on their eyes. Did you know that? Okay, so we're still in the booklet here. We're on page 3 now. We're up to 10.2 where we're going to figure out probabilities. So there's this fancy formula for finding probability. When it says P, that stands for probability. event is what's going on, like, you know, spinning a spinner or rolling a number cube. And how you find probability is you take the number of favorable outcomes and divide by the total possible. So for example, if I said, what's the probability of choosing the letter O out of the word probability? What your favorable outcomes would be the one O in the word, and you would count the total number of letters, and there's 11. So your probability of choosing an O would be 1/11. So probability, if you write this down please, is a number from 0 to 1 that measures the likelihood that an event would occur. So with my example of choosing an O, 1 out of 11 is unlikely. If you look at our scale here, 1 out of 11 would kind of fall here. So it's very unlikely. Something that's impossible would be a 0 probability, and something that's certain to happen is a probability of 1 or 100%. You can write probability as just a decimal or a fraction or a percent. And you can see the scale that right in the middle would be equally likely things, which is what we would like a game to be, is fair. So that would be a 50% probability. Okay, so now on the bottom of page 3, please answer those 2 questions. So the first one falls in that range of being unlikely, 30%. And then the second one would be likely. Okay, and then on page 4, you have a couple more to do. So 80% is in that range that's likely. And you're rolling, for example 2, you're rolling a number cube. What's the probability of rolling an odd number? So we have 3 odd numbers. Those are our favorable outcomes out of our total on the number cube. All the numbers, I'm just listing them just to show you, you don't need to do this. So if we add that up, we have 3 favorable out of 6 total, and we always need to simplify fractions, so it's 1/2. Okay, and then number 3, I want to show you that using a proportion is a good way to solve this. So the probability that you randomly draw a short straw from a group of 40 is 3 out of 20. So how many are short straws? So we have 3 that are short out of 20. And we want to see, well, how many would that be out of 40? So pretty easy proportion to solve and get your answer of 6 straws. All right, and this is not in your booklet, but these are the type of problems we'll be doing as we move on with the chapter. So again, we have a number cube, and I listed the outcomes on the top. Find the probability. Number 1, rolling a factor of 30. So you would want to list your favorable outcomes. So factors of 30 are all the numbers that we can divide 30 by. And on our list, we have quite a lot of them. We have 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. Those are all factors of 30. So the probability then would be that 5 out of total 6, 5 6 of the time, we would roll a factor of 30. Rolling a factor of 8. So 8 has 3 on the list. We have 1 and 2 and 4. Those are all factors of 8. So 3 out of 6, I would simplify that to 1/2 the time that would happen. Rolling a multiple of 7 starts with the number 7, which is not on a number cube, so there's an impossible to happen. That would be a 0. Rolling a number. They are all numbers, so we have 6 out of 6. We would simplify that to a probability of 1. Okay, you've just finished the lesson part of today, and now the next steps would be that you would click on the link in Google Class and watch the Schmoop video, And after you're done with that, please use headphones if you have them. After you're done with that, you're going to create a spinner, a game with the spinner that you're going to be given, and try to come up with something creative where you would have equally likely chances of winning the game. Like boring is to say black versus white. I'd like you to be a little more creative with that. You're going to go to Google Class and click on the Google question and describe your fair game. Once you finish that, you are free to play the game. You'll need just a paper clip and a pencil in the middle to be your spinner for the game. Okay? Happy probability.